Hello Aries, and welcome to your 2026 year ahead horoscope. In this video, we are going to look over the major shifts and changes that are going to be occurring with your energies in this coming year, the opportunities, the potential shadows to watch out for, and where you're likely to see the most movement. So this is going to be a massively significant year for the collective, as you can see in this image that I have, which we'll be working with. Toward the end of July this year, we have an incredible alignment occurring. And this will take place when we have Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius, Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries, Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini, and Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo. So this kind of an alignment is very much unheard of. It is all of the outer planets plus Jupiter. And it's going to serve as a major catalyst for a lot of different people, especially if you have any placements in your chart around 4 degrees. It's also going to integrate a lot of the major energies that we're dealing with throughout the year. And it will certainly concentrate some of these significations around the middle of the year as well. But we are going to be dealing with some shifting energies that are going to hold with us for quite some time now. We also have another major alignment of the Saturn-Neptune Conjunction, which is going to be taking place on the 20th of February of 2026 as well. Neptune will enter that house at the very end of January, and it's going to stay there then until about 2039, so through the end of the year. Saturn will enter in mid-February, and it will remain there until about 2028, so that'll also be through the end of the year. Uranus will be moving into Gemini again on the 26th of April of 2026, and it's going to stay there until about 2033, so that also through the end of the year. And then we have Jupiter moving into Leo this year in the middle of the year at the end of June, and it'll stay there until the middle of the year of 2027 as well. So that'll also be through the end of year. We have Pluto in Aquarius all year. So that's going to be in your 11th house. And then we're going to have the eclipses shifting from Pisces and Virgo into Aries and Libra. And we'll see some of those fresh eclipse energies in February and then July of this year. So we're going to look at each of these in turn and look at how they're also influencing each other for you personally based on the houses that they're aligned with. Now you can check this horoscope for your rising sign. And then all of these placements will align with your correct whole sign houses for your chart. But definitely also feel free to check out your sun sign horoscope as well. So let's go ahead and dive into these. We'll do this on a house by house basis. So the first thing that we're looking at here is that Saturn-Neptune conjunction and then co-presence of the two in your first house. So the major themes that we're dealing with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, they're going to be about healing, releasing, reimagining, boundaries, and spiritual discipline. So a lot of the tone here is going to be around dissolving old structures, testing our faith, integrating a sense of spirit into form. And this is going to be, again, for a lot of people about letting go of outdated belief systems, letting go of outdated institutions or authorities within our own lives. For you, this is taking place in your first house. So this is going to be very much about you and yourself and claiming a sense of authority over yourself, not basing that on whether or not other people are approving or what it is that other people believe and living in accordance with that. This is claiming that energy fundamentally for yourself around what it is that you believe, what it is that you are dreaming of for yourself, your own personal goals, and realizing those in reality. So also then reality testing spiritual narratives. There's an element with this of needing to discern illusion from truth. So again, stripping away those layers of yourself that don't seem to fit for you anymore, that don't seem to be serving your purposes anymore. Reality testing those personal ambitions of yours, and hopefully feeling like you're able to look at that from multiple different directions, not just, is this offering me a sense of material security, but also does this really feel aligned with me in terms of your ambitions, in terms of your personal goals? There's a real crystallization of inspiration, crystallization of a new dream into a form of structure here. And again, for you, this is fundamentally personal. So this is also going to help to mature and bring a lot of wisdom to your sense of self-expression and ground your inspiration into a sense of reality within your own life as well. So building new long-term visions for your personal life. There's also, with this alignment, and you're likely to be feeling throughout this year, a lot of sensitivity to suffering, a lot of compassion, a sense of personal, social responsibility. It's very likely that you're going to be carrying an energy of leadership or influence, or you may be counseling people, giving guidance to people, and offering a shoulder for other people, offering a sense of strength for people to be able to rely on throughout this period of the coming year plus as well. Now, the one thing with this to keep in mind is that some experiences of Saturn and Neptune carry some themes of disillusionment. And so you may find that that experience of the layers that you're shedding off of yourself, the snake skin basically that you're shedding here, is due to some sense of disillusionment. Maybe you have been carrying a sense of identity or a role or some kind of a mask that you felt aligned with you, or that you felt was going to serve you, or that you felt was correct for you, and you're realizing that it doesn't fit, you're realizing that it hasn't served your purposes. This could be around conditioning that you've had. This could be around some experiences that you've personally had that just kind of caused you to take on some of those roles for yourself. But again, realizing in hindsight, and that's the unfortunate part, that's where the disillusionment comes in, right? Is because we've been carrying these things for some time with us. And so this is likely to be really pulling those things that don't fit you anymore away, so that you're able to look at what is really the core of what is true about you. That's the thing with Saturn and Neptune, is that they tend to wear away at each other. They tend to check each other. They tend to question each other. And so, like I said, you're getting the ability to look at your personal identity, how you carry yourself, how you approach life, your view of life, and your role within this from a lot of different angles. And you're able to get really to the crux of it if you are able to work with this energy pretty well. And from that point, I mean, how wonderful is that on the other side of it, of really feeling like your identity is grounded in a sense of fundamentally deep understanding of who you are and what is best for you. So there's some real opportunities here around healing any sort of ego attachments to outdated structures of belief or structures of identity for yourself. And again, really grounding your ideals into practical frameworks this year. You're likely to come off with a lot of mature compassion and to offer structure to people, but in a sensitive fashion as well, in a very understanding fashion too. And some things that I would kind of watch out for a bit is just weakening boundaries or confusion or escapism. I would try your best. I know this is a bit of a tall order because we have all sorts of other things going on in our lives that we need to sort out and everything that we need to kind of keep on top of. But if you can try not to escape these kind of big questions that are coming up for you, you're going to get the best then out of this transit here. So trying not to dissociate or give into confusion, really looking at things squarely, being truly, truly honest with yourself is going to give you the best out of this alignment. Additionally, with that authority erosion and stepping into your own authority, that can also be a little bit confusing because it can be like, what then do I anchor myself and my belief and the structure of my life to? And that's going to be a really personal question for you. The answer of that is going to be that you're going to have to anchor it onto yourself, but that does still leave some questions open about what are your personal values and where do you stand on certain things and what are you kind of willing to stick your neck out for and what do you feel you've kind of outgrown, right? So there are a lot of questions there that are going to need to be answered. And there can be with this a bit of fatigue or a sense of guilt or, again, kind of moral ambiguity here. But I would really try your best to not give into, again, any sort of a sense of guilt around this. This is going to be a really big year for you personally and for defining who it is that you are going forward, defining the next cycle of your life, defining what success truly means to you, and then also stepping into a lot of dreams and personal ambitions that may have seemed a bit far-fetched, but you're recognizing in this year, and perhaps also next year, how it is that you're able to bring that into form. So this is such a valuable transit, but it does bring a lot of weight with it as well. So just on kind of a deeper psychological level, this is going to be bringing up questions around boundaries, responsibility, maturity, initiation, intuition, idealization, imagination. So if you feel those things kind of coming up psychologically for you as these open questions that you're needing to answer, definitely makes a lot of sense. And it's just trying to open a door for you to be able to create something new from yourself. If we want to look at this from a bit more of an esoteric perspective, there's a lot around integration of form in this period of time as well for you, as well as limitlessness and where that can wind up overcoming or integrating with a sense of, again, structure or reality. So what are the real limits and where are they not? This is going to be pointing out a lot where they're not. And that's also part of where it could get a little bit confusing or feel a little bit up in the air, because a lot of where you thought you were held back, a lot of self-limiting beliefs are really being stripped away here. And again, that's what can make us feel a little untethered, and then anchoring back into ourselves it's a wonderful thing. But again, just understand there may be a little bit of confusion around identity in this year with this alignment too. But this is really speaking to a major new karmic cycle for you, and a kind of rebirth of an evolved spiritual self, or an evolved spiritual framework that you're working with going forward now. So that one is probably going to be one of the biggest alignments here for you, because that's taking place in your first house of yourself, and it's so fundamentally core for you. But let's look at some of these other alignments. Again, going through the houses, the next alignment that we have here is going to be this Uranus that is moving into Gemini again. And that's going to be in your third house of communications and community, your connections with others, your voice, learning, your thought processes, and just kind of even what goes on in your mind and so forth. So a lot of what we're dealing with when it comes to this Uranus in Gemini is going to be around innovation and freedom. There can be a disruptive quality to this, a sense of awakening that comes through, and a sense of a lot of acceleration that we're going to be feeling on a collective level as Uranus is really allowed to make its moves in Gemini in a way that it hasn't been able to in Taurus here. So the major tone here is going to be around reforming things and rebelling against things. So sudden breakthroughs. There can be some really wonderful quantum leaps that also are experienced with Uranus and Gemini too. So there's going to be a huge amount of rapid change, a sense of revolution in the way that you process and think and speak and share your ideas, the way that you connect with others, the way that you carry yourself when it comes to your community, the role that you feel that you play when it comes to acquaintances and those around you, as well as there may be major shakeups just in your city. So this could be a lot of construction, or just the vibe of the city that you're in changing a lot, or this can even speak to going to a different city and therefore your surroundings changing in that kind of a way. This can definitely light a fire under you to want to move around more and want to experience more, but without having to just have it be necessarily a temporary thing. So changing basically the environment around you is going to be something that you'll be really motivated to do. And this is also going to encourage a lot of like breaking from convention, reimagining systems and things like this. So this liberation from restrictive opinions or conventional opinions, things that maybe you've believed for quite some time, especially as this is playing into the alignment in your first house. You may have some major long-term opinions and viewpoints and belief systems and things like this that just don't feel like they fit anymore. And stepping into something really new and innovative that feels a lot freer in this coming year as well, especially with these two being so closely aligned this year. So also then major breakthroughs when it comes to learning or communication styles, shifts in how it is that you're communicating, shifts in the topics that you're communicating about, the topics that you're learning about, that you're engaging with, the kind of media that you're engaging with as well. And some of those breakthroughs are going to feel like major revelations or shocks, this kind of liberation from stagnation. And this could also be, again, in communication. So like writing or media, the way that you connect with the people around you. This can even be with regard to technology. So that may be something that you are being encouraged in a way that's kind of unexpected to really embrace and work with in a way. So I don't know if that could be like LLMs, AI, etc. I know that that's a weird topic right now, and I'm certainly not the most psyched about it, but you may be finding some way that you're able to utilize that or work with that or even contest that and make arguments against it, or encourage people to think about the way that they engage with media differently, or the way that they engage with technology as well. This could literally be like a phone upgrade or something, though, too. It can sometimes come through in these really cheeky, literal ways as well. But yeah, this is also going to come through at times with your psyche and with your thought processes, with just your mind itself as this kind of lightning bolt inspiration, these genius moments where you just have these really wonderful ideas, or where you just hit something right on the head when it comes to describing or expressing something. This can also have you, especially again, if you are pulling layers away around your like old identity or something like this could be you speaking up for yourself or speaking generally in ways that you haven't quite before. So really stepping into your own, claiming your voice, liberating really your voice from any sort of inhibitions or any sort of self-imposed, or, you know, even at some point outside imposed restrictions that aren't necessary and aren't serving your growth at this point as well. But the one thing I will say as well is that there can be some restlessness, and like especially mental restlessness. So going from one thought to another, and having trouble shutting down your mind as well, having trouble not thinking about all sorts of different things. So try to keep that in check if that starts to step up, just making sure that you're resting your mind as you're able to. This can also cause day in, day out distractions and disruptions to what it is that you're trying to accomplish day to day, and scattering your focus a bit. So trying to focus, trying to really stick to a plan and not hop from one thing to another would also be really great. But yeah, there's some really wonderful opportunities here for inventive or very creative or original self-expression for you as well. Really embracing your freedom and authenticity, especially when it comes to your voice and how it is that you're just kind of carrying yourself through your day-to-day life as well. And really reframing the way that you speak about things, perhaps especially about yourself and your opportunities, and even the way that you think about that. Again, this is the place of mind. So it's not just the thoughts as they come out in words, it's also the thoughts that we experience in our own minds. So looking at yourself, looking at the narratives that you carry about the world and about your life, really from a radical new perspective as well. But yeah, impulsiveness and instability can be also some things to watch out for, as well as sometimes getting a bit burnt out from constant change. So you may feel like everything around you is shifting and changing just too much, and it's hard to keep track of. So there's going to have to be certain points where you're not on yourself about having to keep track of all of it. And you're just having to let some of that change and some of that, you know, exciting kinds of opportunities or things like that are in the environment, not clinging on to every one of them, basically not trying to hold on to every single one of them. But yeah, also there can be some level with Uranus around disconnection or detachment or rebellion for its own sake. So I would try not to be just pushing buttons just to push buttons with people, because your words can have surprising effects when you have Uranus in this house. And it can also just kind of have you feel not on the same page as your community around you. So if that specifically is the case, and maybe you're feeling a bit misunderstood or something like this, again, especially if you're going through all these personal shifts and changes to your identity throughout this time, I would recommend with Uranus in Gemini in your third house to speak to people or connect with people online, at least. If you aren't able to like readily find communities where you feel understood in the local space around you, there's probably going to be groups online or ways that you can connect with people that aren't immediately around you that would really understand you as well. So with this one on a deeper kind of psychological level, there is a lot of creative genius that is coming into this place of your mind and your communication and connection with people. There's an impulse to liberate. So that's how we get that liberation from restrictive thoughts and things like this. And there's going to be a bit of a tension between individuality and group identity that this Uranus winds up bringing in, where we're needing to focus on our side of the street and being really authentically ourselves, especially in the way that we express ourselves, but also keeping in mind the other. And that's one of the reasons that Gemini can be so restless at times, is that it does tend to look at things from all different kinds of perspectives. And it can be difficult sometimes for it as well to just focus in on what is its perspective on something, like making its mind about something. So on a more esoteric level, then, there's a lot in terms of your mind around awakening. If you feel some sense of divine discontent coming through, of feeling that restlessness that feels like you're on the verge of something, of a breakthrough or something, I would, without taking crazy risks, I would try to follow some of those threads, allow for those thoughts to process through, because it's likely that some of these disruptions, some of these shifts and changes that may be a little crazy making at times are also going to be really creative and helpful and liberating in the end here. So really leaning into a sense of conscious evolution for you. And it is really incredible how these alignments are lining up for you in terms of your identity and then the way that you're thinking about things and you're expressing yourself. That's all really feeding into each other in a really supportive way this year as well. So moving on from this point, then we have Jupiter is moving into your 5th house of Leo in the end of June, at the end of June on the 30th there. So your 5th house has to do with joy, pleasure, creativity. This is the house of your children as well. If you are artistic at all, then that's going to come through here. We can sometimes see romantic relationships or friendships, like pleasure-focused relationships that are just for the joy of it, kinds of connections coming through there, as well as activities, hobbies, interests, things like this. So there's a real courage and creativity, joy and play, and a focus and a priority on leisure that a lot of people are going to be feeling on one level or another. For you, that's going to be really emphasized because of the fact that this Jupiter in Leo is going to be in your 5th house. So for you, this is going to be speaking very much to a personal kind of glow up in terms of your perception of yourself and being really boldly self-expressive. But this is more in the how you carry yourself, how you live your life, how you express yourself just through how you show up, rather than necessarily specifically your words, like that Uranus in your 3rd house. So this is also going to be carrying a lot of confidence and magnetism for you as well. And it's going to be bringing up a lot of optimism and enthusiasm and charisma that winds up attracting some attention. So that kind of energy that you'll be able to carry quite naturally in this period of time is going to wind up renewing a lot of your passion, your ability and your permission to yourself to enjoy play, to enjoy the pleasurable aspects of life without it needing to be somehow productive or something like this. There's an ability to have a lot of confidence as well in your self-expression with this alignment. This is going to feed into a sense of like radiance, personal radiance that you're carrying, especially due to the trine that it's making from that Jupiter out to Neptune in your 1st house. The subtle influence that you'll be carrying here is going to be quite substantial there. So this is also going to really encourage you to take some creative risks, to be very adventurous, to show up really boldly in, again, if you are in art at all, if you are a creative type, then this is going to be speaking to that quite a bit. If you can't tell by the way that I'm speaking about it, I'm not so much. I love this house, but I'm not so much an artist. But yeah, even when it comes to love or again, just your pleasures and passions and things like that, even in like romantic connections or friendships, when it comes to your own personal leadership, this is going to bring a lot of admiration for you, but also just a lot of energy and vitality as well. You should be feeling rather lucky. I think especially around that July timeframe when these two line up really distinctly. That's an energy that we don't deal with quite a lot. Like I said, we don't get alignments like this typically. And so this one's going to be carrying a really warm and beautiful energy that you'll be basically emanating through this time, especially if you can lean into a sense of optimism and kind of quiet confidence, just carrying a really beautiful aura with you. I think it's going to open a lot of doors on the kind of subtle level there, which is going to be fascinating. Now, that Jupiter in Leo is going to be speaking to sense of performance, and the fifth house can also carry that as well. So again, any sort of personal expression, especially creative expression, or just kind of showing up again in these like pleasure aspects of life, this should be really getting a lot of attention. That's something that this is definitely going to be bringing through that I didn't mention quite yet. This is going to be bringing in some attention for you as well. It's also going to be working strongly on your generosity. It's kind of goodwill nature, really affirming others as well. There's also an opportunity toward mentorship here. So mentoring children, perhaps especially, but just people that you wind up kind of taking under your wing in a really warm and generous way. You should be able to inspire others quite a bit through that and through the energy of joy and authenticity that you're carrying through this time as well. So on kind of a psychological level, this is going to be speaking a lot to optimism and ideals when it comes to pleasure and joy and things that you just really love to lean into, a lot of personal growth, and especially growth around your confidence and your own identification, basically, with your own personal sense of magnetism as well. But on the other side of this, I would definitely watch out for overindulgence when it comes to these alignments as well. This can even feed into ego in a very over the top expansive way. Again, particularly when these two are aligned super distinctly in the July timeframe, but pretty much from that point throughout the rest of the year, there can be an inclination toward overinflated ego. I'm so sorry to have to say that, but it is a risk there for sure. So that is something to kind of keep in mind there. Also, really focusing in on the appearance that you're carrying rather than the energy. Focus in on the optimism. It's the energy that's drawing people in, not so much like hype or these more kind of superficial aspects of what can draw people in. It's really the energy itself. Also, when it comes to competition or envy or any sort of drama, this can also inflate that quite a bit. So that is something to also keep in mind, especially around friendships or competition. If you have any competitive hobbies, this could really drive that up in you quite a bit. So if you do feel like, wow, I'm way more competitive than usual, just something to keep in mind is to avoid any sort of like all or nothing tendencies as well there. But yeah, on a more esoteric level, this is just going to speak to a huge amount of expansion, abundance, fortune. There's an energy of unity and a sense of destined kind of coming together in that fifth house. So this could speak to having children as well, or having much better or more exciting connections with your children if you already have them, or if there are any children in your life, nieces, nephews, if you are a teacher or a leader of children in some way. This is going to be really helpful to have you have a really wonderful and inspiring impact on them as well. So I would lean into that, and doing so again through that optimism, through that positivity, through that affirming of others kind of energy that's going to be encouraged here as well. But yeah, I think that's pretty much that Jupiter in the fifth. So that Jupiter in the fifth is going to be opposite in a very fascinating way, again, around that July timeframe when we get this crazy alignment here, then also relevant throughout the year to this Pluto that is in Aquarius. Now, this is going to be all year. We had this finally permanently move into Aquarius. I want to say it was at the end of last year. around November of last year, but it's going to be relevant every year, so I'm going to keep bringing it up. So for you, this is going to be in your 11th house. You're still working with this, and this is going to be speaking to matters of power, transformation, regeneration, depth, and a need at times to surrender when we're dealing with Pluto. And the tone here in Aquarius is going to be also around like deep change or purging, facing the shadow and being really authentically honest with ourselves about it. So the area of life that's going to be impacted by this Pluto for you, the 11th house, is going to be your affiliations, your associations. Friends can also show up in this house. So I do have to say, around that July timeframe, if there's a lot of weird drama or power plays or weird dynamics going on in your friendship circles, or even where friendship and colleagues maybe seem to come together somehow, I would caution around that a bit, because this could wind up really getting out of hand, like becoming way, way, way too big, because these two are going to throw each other a bit out of balance in that moment. In some ways, in a really wonderful, mind-blowing way, in terms, again, for you, of self-acceptance and a sense of belonging and a sense of your own influence and a sense of the value of your own enjoyment, right? The ability of you to just enjoy who you are and to not necessarily need to rely on social affirmation or the expectations of others and fitting into those or anything like that. So it's going to have that really wonderful aspect to that opposition. But again, if we're dealing with specifically power dynamics, it's going to potentially get way out of hand. And because of the fact that friends are noted in both the 5th and the 11th house, that is specifically one thing I would really mention around, again, especially that July timeframe, but to a lesser extent throughout the rest of the year as well from that point. So in the 11th house, we are dealing with all of these Pluto, power, control, rebirth, regeneration kinds of cycles coming up in those areas of, again, associations, friendships, alliances, hopes, dreams, aspirations. These are both really wonderful houses as well that this opposition is showing up in. So it should be really building you up quite a bit. And this Pluto is going to bring a major transformation to this social area of your life that shows up in the 11th house. This is around the groups that you align with. This can be around causes that you believe in and that you're contributing to as well. But like I said, colleagues can also show up here, as well as people who are able to give you a leg up. When you have Pluto transiting that house, it's likely that there's going to be some people around who are able to give you a huge leg up. But that may be because they carry some sense of big authority, maybe in a field or something like this. Maybe this is a significantly higher up kind of a boss or something where there is a power differential there. That's one thing that Pluto usually winds up introducing to certain scenarios, is that power differential, and then questions about how that's managed. So just keeping in mind, there is a really wonderful opportunity to get a huge leg up when Pluto's in this house when it comes to your aspirations, your dreams. So you could wind up having, again, those kinds of quantum leaps that we can experience with Uranus and Pluto similarly, but it may come with playing it small. And what's weird is that opposition to Jupiter, that Jupiter's not really going to be the most comfortable with that. So just keeping in mind, what is the power dynamic? Do you need to rock the boat? Can you allow some things to slide, but still make sure that your ego isn't getting impacted necessarily by any sort of weird power dynamic stuff that's going on? Yeah, that's going to be pretty much throughout the communities that you are interacting with. It's just going to be those moments where you're encountering those issues of power and control dynamics. And again, this can be around causes too. So maybe not just the people around you, but maybe the people that you agree with. So this could be a political or a cultural identity that you align with, or again, a field that you work in. Maybe there's some drama in the field. That can certainly happen. I used to work in journalism, and there was always feuds between journalists and so forth. So it could be something like that. I would really question yourself. Do you need to step into a dynamic like that? When you see it coming up, can you just let it slide? Can you hopefully not engage so that you don't deal with any of the potential blowback on either of those sides? So also here, when it comes to the social expectations that show up in the 11th house. This is where we can kind of box ourselves in a bit. It's a wonderful house, but it is kind of how we carry ourselves in order to get ahead. And so there is an aspect there of what are the expectations that we're trying to fit in? What is that box that we feel would be best for us to stay within? We may be releasing some of those outdated identities, again, especially those kinds of collective identities. Maybe you're seeing some drama arise within a collective identity, and you're deciding to step back a bit from that, step back a bit from a specific kind of a community in this year as well. There's also major death rebirth cycles that come in with Pluto. So I would say there may be some friends that you're shedding. There may be some colleagues you're shedding. There may be, again, some blowback from power dynamics that are causing certain people to leave groups, and you may lose some contact with them. But it is also going to bring in new connections as well. So there is a push and a pull there. And that's going to be reinforced very strongly by the fact that you have both of those big change makers in these two social houses of the third house, people, places, things around you, community, 11th house, group affiliations, friends, colleagues, benefactors, allies, people like that, the social groups, the organizations that you belong to, and so forth. So that is very, very likely that there's going to be some shifts and changes that's called for. So don't fear if that comes up. You may even have a tendency to feel like, is it because of the shift in myself that's going on? That's part of the reason why I'm not aligned with these people anymore. That may be the case, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of your way to overthink that. That's just kind of getting called for anyway. Some changes, some turnover in your social connections in this coming year as well. Additionally, with this Pluto in your 11th house, this is also going to be acting upon your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And it's going to be bringing up some subconscious drives and some desires that are likely to be revealed to you that may speak to those. So new aspirations coming up that feel much more deeply aligned. Like, wow, I haven't felt so pulled in any direction before. Things that just feel 100% correct on a really deep level can be coming through around this time, which can feel like a major revelation as to the direction that you're moving in now in your life as well. This also speaks to, this Pluto is not only in your 11th house as other people that can give you a leg up, that have power. It also speaks to your power and influence on the social connections around you. So it is fundamentally empowering on that social group dynamic, but I would recommend carrying that through the authenticity of Aquarius and through looking at that Jupiter as it is, looking straight across to that Jupiter that is in Leo in your 5th house. Those two can work together to build up your confidence around truly being yourself and to knowing that you're going to belong and that you're going to be totally fine if you do that, rather than trying to control outcomes too much, because that's where we can start to get into the shadow side of Pluto. And then we're dealing with the annoying lessons and things like that that can sometimes come up with the outer planet transits, because there is a really intense purification and renewal energy that this is going to be bringing in, again, especially around social power dynamics and so forth. And so hopefully that can just be embraced rather than needing to be like enforced by that Pluto, maybe outside of your control or something like this. So yeah, reclaiming a sense of inner power and autonomy and the ability to define who you are for yourself with really all of these alignments here. Then also a lot of emotional honesty and deep healing with any sort of social inhibitions that you've carried. If you can look at those really honestly and openly, just to yourself, and try actively to release those, maybe write about that. Maybe that's something that you could do with Uranus in your 3rd house. If you haven't journaled much, that could be something that's truly wonderful to journal about. And you could get some brilliant insights from that Uranus in your 3rd house there as well. And then also there's this kind of channeling of intensity that comes with Pluto as an opportunity. And with that in your 11th house, if there are any causes or sense of purpose or again, a new hope, dream, or aspiration that you can really channel that drive toward, that's going to be really wonderful. And that's where you can really get this to come to a a really strong pressure point to where you can get those really wonderful breakthroughs and those quantum leaps out of, again, these outer planets. So some things to watch for, again, manipulation, control, also obsessiveness, or any sort of needing to win out, like those zero-sum kinds of scenarios that can come from envy or possessiveness or jealousy or anything like that around social group dynamics or influence over groups, so on. This may be something you see in someone. And again, I would just recommend maybe try not to get into a power struggle with that if you do wind up seeing it. There can be fear with Pluto as well. So maybe there's a fear of loss of certain friends or certain identities or belonging to certain groups, or a fear of not feeling like you belong, a fear of alienation or something like this. So I would, if that winds up arising, recommend not leaning in too heavily to that fear. It's just, what do they say? The acronym of false evidence appearing real with fear. There's some really wonderful energy in your field, basically, with that alignment of Jupiter and Neptune. And you shouldn't have to worry about feeling like you're not appreciated. You will be. So try not to fear around that as well. But yeah, on a psychological level, this is going to bring up a lot of matters of instinct or willpower, integration of shadow, as well as regeneration, a deep-seated kind of phoenix-like regeneration when it comes to matters of social influence for you. And then when it comes to the more esoteric way of looking at this, again, there's this rebirth, there's this kind of alchemizing certain social connections or certain social roles so that you can step into something that can feel a lot more authentic for you as well. And there's also a lot of purification, empowerment, and individuation. And I think for you, in fact, that is such a wonderful little term that I have here about this, Pluto. For you in particular, because of the way that the whole thing is lining up for you this year, which is going to be so much about individuation. This is you embracing your pleasure, your joy, regardless of what other people think. Hopefully not stepping on toes. Just throw that out there. And then Pluto is going to be helping to individuate you or help you to find your power when it comes to social dynamics so that you can be really truly yourself and really follow your dreams and your aspirations and hopes authentically and deeply and connect with those as they wind up arising without fear. And that Neptune is going to be having you reimagine who you are. With Saturn there, it's going to be bringing that into reality as well as checking and releasing anything that feels outdated as well, anything that feels like it's no longer you. And then that Uranus is changing up the way that you're expressing yourself as well, verbally, the way that you're thinking about life and yourself too. So there's a huge individuation theme that's going on for you in this coming year that I think is going to be super powerful and really, really cool. Now, we also then have the eclipses are going to be shifting out from your 6th and 12th houses into your 5th and 11th houses, because the North Node is moving backward in this year out of Pisces and into Aquarius. And the South Node will be moving backwards out of, because it's always retrograde, the nodes, that one will move out of Virgo and back into Leo. So where we've had eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, your 12th and 6th houses, for about a year and a half at this point, we are now going to step into about a 2-year period where we're getting eclipses in your 5th and your 11th. Now, 6th, 12th house eclipses can be a little bit quiet. So you may not have felt them in the most overt ways. They may have come up as extra tasks or extra things that you had on your plate that you had to sort out. Those annoying things of organization coming up and trying to manage all of the tasks that are assigned to you, as well as some internal growth and some internal processing and releasing with the lunar eclipses that you've been getting in the 12th house as well. That's going to be lifting up a bit. We're still going to get one of each. We're going to get 2 lunar eclipses. We'll get one final lunar eclipse in Pisces in your 12th house, and we'll get one final lunar eclipse in your 6th house. But those are going to be much, much more quiet than the solar eclipses that are phasing in now. So in February, we're going to be getting the first solar eclipse in Aquarius. That's going to be in your 11th house, and that's going to be somewhere around 28 degrees of Aquarius on the 17th of February. So that is going to be speaking to that North Node side of these eclipses here. So there's going to be a lot of growth through community engagement, through that collaboration, through shared purpose, through your renewed sense of influence, and hopefully confidence that you're carrying when it comes to the impact that you're able to have on collectives, and that you're able to carry for the sense of pursuing your dreams, pursuing your hopes, pursuing the roles that you're wanting to step into as we go forward. You're really getting encouraged to go for it when it comes to those social connections and pursuing growth there. So building teams as well that honor that sense of individuality, that honor that sense of being able to bring together diverse perspectives, diverse groups, and build something a lot better than if we were to just kind of go it alone, right? So really leaning into collaboration here. Now, the South Node moving into Leo will be encouraging us to step a bit away from any issues of ego clashes among friends when it comes to group projects as well, or again, over-identifying with just the self as an island. There's an opportunity for you to really isolate and really go all in for yourself this year. But I think that this is going to be a lot better, and the eclipses are definitely going to be encouraging you to embrace you, yourself, your personal identity, this new self of yours, but to be really open to putting it out there in the world to be seen, and to collaborating with others and building also other people up in that same way as well. So that's what the eclipses are really going to be emphasizing. And notice how they are re-emphasizing that 5th and 11th house axis here that we're dealing with. So a lot of focus again on personal self-expression, creativity, releasing inhibitions, releasing any sort of self-limiting beliefs, embracing leadership roles, embracing collaboration, and embracing the influence that you're able to have when it comes to social networks and things like this. But yeah, I think that that is a lot of what I have for you, Aries, for 2026. So that's going to be the big strokes here. If you would like to get a personalized year ahead forecast for your specific chart with all of your alignments, I do offer that at Sociastrology.com if you want to check that out as well. There's also information in the description box about memberships where we do weekly forecasts. We do little mini courses every month. So also, if you're interested in that, information in the description box below. And if you don't mind giving the video a thumbs up or hype, I would greatly appreciate that. Consider also maybe sticking around for future videos. We tend to look at every major alignment all throughout the year. So going into even more alignments than this, and we take them through the houses like I have here. So if that's something that you are interested in, I upload those weekly, and you might be interested in that. And other than that, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful year, and thank you so much for spending your time with me.